My name is Mickey Varner, and I will be defending Hypera postica, also known as the alfalfa weevil.
My name is Reese York, and I will be defending Diarophis noxia, more commonly known as the Russian wheat aphid. The topic of our debate is to discuss which of these causes the greatest infestations or losses.
The alfalfa weevil is native to Asia and has traveled over to the U.S. at least 3 times. It resides mainly in Pennsylvania and is one of the most destructive alfalfas in Pennsylvania. The larvae are small yellowish-green insects with black heads and a white stripe down the center of their backs, with smaller white lines on their sides. When they become adults, they grow to be about a 1/4 inch long and change to a brownish color, with a dark brown stripe extending down their back. Their heads stay small compared to their body, and they have a small beak mouth part that they use to chew leaves. The alfalfa weevil is most prominent in the spring when the adults chew holes in young alfalfa leaves. The female lays her eggs in holes that she chewed in the stem of an alfalfa plant after a couple of weeks. Once these eggs hatch, the larvae start feeding on the stem of the plant and eventually move to the leaves until they reach maturity. They do most of their damage to the crops at this stage. The larvae leave a skeletal-like appearance to the crops, making them appear gray and dead. Their damage is most extensive before the first cut of the season. The weevil's damage is decreased when the plants are shorter. In a group of 30 12-inch plants, the alfalfa weevils can reduce yield to about 3 pounds per acre. Once the larvae reach maturity, they spin silken cocoons and transform into adult alfalfa weevil. The adults can feed on crops until early fall, which can make the cost of damage very expensive. Since it is over many months, unlike most beetles, the alfalfa weevil can live through the winter. They also go into a type of hibernation in the summer. Due to their long lifespans and the amount of damage per acre that they cause, the alfalfa weevil cause extensive damage to the crops and cost the farmers millions of dollars of damage.
The Russian wheat aphid has a small lime green football-shaped body. Its antennae, legs, and cornicles are short when compared to other aphids. The end of its abdomen appears as if it has a double tail when viewed from the side. The Russian wheat aphid looks very similar to the green bug, especially in color. However, the green bug has a dark green stripe and longer antennae and cornicles, which helps to set it apart. In the larval stage, Russian wheat aphids are mostly sedentary and live in dense colonies that thrive on the host plant. As the colony grows in size, the aphids thrive off of feeding as a group, causing them to develop and reproduce at higher rates and also reduce their individual risk of being attacked by natural predators. Russian wheat aphids typically molt 4 or 5 times between the first instar and the reproductive adult stages. Adult maturation can occur anywhere between 9 and 55 days, depending on the temperature. Lower temperatures are associated with slower development and reproduction, but temperatures higher than 77 degrees can cause mortality. Russian wheat aphids are able to change the growth of their host plants. Leaves that roll longitudinally can allow higher density colonies to develop in relatively protected locations. In addition, rolled leaves provide better protection from harsh environmental conditions like temperature, and they protect the Russian wheat aphids from larger natural enemies. In terms of biology, these aphids are asexual, meaning they are all female and give birth to live daughters, which are carrying embryonic granddaughters. This factor, along with the asexuality of these bugs, is responsible for the explosive population growth of many aphid species. In some countries, sexual generations of Russian wheat aphids have been found in the fall. Sexual females have been found in North America, but males have not, so it appears that the aphid population reproduces without sexuality. Russian wheat aphids have an inability to produce overwintering eggs, which explains why they haven't been able to spread to regions such as North Russia. Russian wheat aphids economically impact humans because they destroy wheat and barley crops in dryland regions. These aphids not only cause the plant's leaves to roll, but they also stunt the growth of their host plants. The economic impacts caused by destruction of these plants can be detrimental to farmers because cereal crop production is a huge agricultural industry, and Russian wheat aphids are able to destroy these crops in large quantities over a relatively short period of time.
The Russian wheat aphid is not as destructive as the alfalfa weevil because it has slower reproduction in cold temperatures and is unable to reproduce in temperatures higher than 77 degrees Fahrenheit. The main areas in the United States that grow wheat are southern states, which typically have high temperatures for most of the year. and barley is mostly grown in northern states that have a majority colder temperatures throughout the year. Due to these temperature restrictions, the Russian wheat aphid is confined to few regions where they can thrive in the United States. The alfalfa weevil is found largely in Pennsylvania, which possesses the ideal temperatures and climate for the weevil. Alfalfa weevils are most active in the spring when temperatures are around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the alfalfa weevil can thrive in temperatures that are critical to the production of alfalfa, it is more destructive for a longer period of time than the Russian wheat aphid.
While the Russian wheat aphid does have some limitations in terms of temperature, they also have adaptations to avoid harsh climates. The ability of the Russian wheat aphid to roll the leaves of host plants makes them less susceptible to harsh temperatures, allowing them to survive in harsher climates since they have proper protection. Many insects cannot withstand the harsh arid climates of the high plains regions of the U.S., but Russian wheat aphids are not negatively impacted by this region. Even with some limitations in terms of climate, Russian wheat aphids still cause anywhere between $10 and $274 million in direct crop losses annually, not including the cost of prevention efforts and treatment, showing how much destruction these little bugs can really cause. On the other hand, destruction due to alfalfa weevils is typically only concentrated on the first cut of the season, which greatly limits their ability to destroy the alfalfa plants. In addition, the effects of the alfalfa weevil decrease with increasing height of the plant, so as farmers continue to grow their alfalfa crops, the weevils become less and less impactful and cannot cause as much damage. Russian wheat aphids are not limited by the height of their host plants, allowing them to cause more destruction over a longer period of time. Russian wheat aphids are also not impacted much by insecticides, so they are very hard to eliminate, whereas alfalfa weevils can be removed relatively easily through means of sweep nets or insecticides.
Although the alfalfa weevil damage can be reduced after the first cutting of the season, this cutting has to be perfectly timed with the temperature change and crop growth. If there is a late frost or any other reason for late growth of the alfalfa crops, then the weevils can take control of the crops and cause severe damage before the now delayed first cutting of the season. Also, while alfalfa weevils can be removed with insecticides, the cost of purchasing enough insecticides to cover all the crops in the field is extensive. The farmers are likely to spend a significant amount of money on the insecticides, and consumers might be deterred from purchasing the alfalfa after it has been contaminated with insecticides, furthering the expense of the alfalfa weevil's damage. On the contrary, the Russian wheat aphid has a very limited lifespan of typically 3 months. Due to their sensitivity to temperature, they can only survive for the few months that the temperature is not too hot or too cold. Thus, they can only cause damage to the crops for a short amount of time. The alfalfa weevil can survive from the fall through the winter and into the spring when they lay their eggs. Since they have such a long lifespan, they are able to cause damage for an extended period of time and are more unpredictable, which makes it difficult for the farmers to stop them.
Even though the Russian wheat aphid has a relatively short lifespan, they are able to reproduce very rapidly. In fact, since they are asexual, they are all females. The daughters are born already carrying the embryos of their own daughters, so they are able to give birth soon after they are born, creating a very quick cycle of reproduction and growing the colony. Russian wheat aphids can reach full maturation in as little as 9 days, meaning they are able to give birth to the next generation in that short period of time. Since the Russian wheat aphids are able to grow their population so quickly, it doesn't really impair their destructive capabilities to have a short lifespan. Also, Russian wheat aphids actually have longer lifespans relative to the average lifespan of aphids as a whole, which is only 1 month. In addition, the adaptive skills of rolling the leaves on wheat and barley plants allow the Russian wheat aphids to be protected from the elements and predators, which could result in longer lifespans than the average. Being asexual also creates a much shorter period of time between birth and sexual maturation. For most sexual insects, maturation would take much longer than about 2 weeks, so the rate at which they could reproduce would be much shorter. Being able to increase their population so quickly would result in more destruction. Also, Russian wheat aphids are well adapted to accommodate large colonies, which again increases the amount of damage that the population of aphids have the potential to cause.
The alfalfa weevil can cause extensive damage to the farmers' crops and cost farmers millions of dollars. This is due to the alfalfa weevil's ability to survive extreme temperatures and destroy multiple plants with few larvae occupying them. They are difficult to remove from crops without the use of large amounts of insecticides. Farmers have to make sure that the first cut of the season is perfectly timed with the growth of the crop, or the weevils can cause a significant damage to the crops. They also do not have any natural enemies since they are not native to the United States. This can become a threatening issue since most insect populations are controlled through natural predation. But the alfalfa weevils do not have any native predators in the U.S., making it easy for these insects to rapidly spread and wipe out an entire field of crops. There's recently been a large outbreak of them in California area, and researchers are looking for new ways to stop the spread of the weevils. There are many different chemical insecticides that are on the market, but the researchers are examining which one is most effective, least expensive, and the least harmful to the crops that the weevils have infested. It is important for researchers to study the alfalfa weevils because farmers lose millions of dollars every year to these beetles, as well as to prepare solutions for any other foreign insect that may infest crops in the U.S.
Overall, the combination of rapid reproduction and the fact that they are asexual cause populations of Russian wheat aphids to expand quickly and aids in the destructive potential of these aphids. They are a very hard pest to eliminate since they do not respond to insecticides. Because of how difficult it is to prevent from getting them and to remove them if they infest one's crops, they are very important to be educated about. Millions of dollars are lost every year due to infestations of Russian wheat aphids. Current research on Russian wheat aphids is being done in various parts of Australia to determine susceptibility of different commercial cereal grains, potential sources of plant resistance, insecticide effectiveness, and development of resources for growers of cereal grains. The current study has revealed that there may be a level of resistance to these pests in some crops. However, the Russian wheat aphid is still responsible for extensive damage to wheat and barley crops across the world. Aphids are one of the leading causes of diseased commercial crops, as they carry diseases from plant to plant in a rather uncontrollable manner due to their rapid reproduction and immunity to insecticides. Aphids also cause more damage to cereal crops than any other nuisance, especially in the Atlantic region. In addition to fast reproduction, aphids can be carried by wind, which aids in their ability to destroy massive numbers of crops in very short periods of time. Aphids tend to feed off of younger and less developed crops, but they are often carried from the southern to northern portions of the areas that they infest, causing rapid infestation. A great number of factors impact how destructive Russian wheat aphids are, but no matter what combination of factors these farmers experience, Russian wheat aphids will be detrimental to cereal crops and cause massive economic losses.